Welcome to the Noble 23 podcast. Like even the Joe Rogan setup, he's got like a little, each guest has like a cough button. So
Okay.
it's kind of cool.
That's pretty neat.
But yeah, Kevin Shelor, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here.
Glad you can come up here. You said you had like pretty busy shift last night.
Oh, yeah. We were up all night, which is unusual for us. So
Yeah.
got to get some coffee, energy drink, and we're back at it. So
What like any kind of out of the ordinary calls or just
no,
usual
just run of the mill kind of stuff. So
Okay.
nothing too exciting.
What about the daytime? Like
But,
you guys get anything good or?
I think we only had like one or two, but it wasn't. Yeah, no car fires or anything. So nothing exciting.
Yeah, we had like training in the morning. We had to do like the EMS training, and then we had a couple back-to-back calls, and then we got our car fire and a little Chevy Aveo.
There you
or
go.
Aveo, whatever.
Okay.
Just fully rocking.
There you go.
Like-
Do a little fun, man. You know,
Yep.
not a house, but
Yeah, we're like coming up with a plan, and he's like, "All right, just grab the water can if it's just smoke, and like we could put it out real quick." And we came around the corner. I was like, "Nope."
can job.
No, pulled the trash line, and then I like threw a chalk up underneath there, and I'm like, as I'm running back, like I heard something explode, and like ducked my head. I was like,
Dude,
ah!
That's what gets you. The popping and the cracking,
Yeah.
dude.
I thought it was
scares
like
me.
a tire or something, or like something
Yeah.
else, and it just I was like, oh,
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, that happens to me too. I kind of look around, make sure nobody saw me flinch or whatever. You know, if I did, I'm like, oh, we're good.
Whatever.
Nothing exploding. We're fine.
Oh yeah. So you recently went up to Alaska.
I did. Yeah.
So who'd you go with?
So it was just me and my wife.
Okay. Nice.
So we went on that cruise with Shane Daniel. So he has his own company, the Trip Company, I believe it's called, or Trip Station. So he gives you like really good discounts and deals and stuff. So he hooked us up with a 7-night cruise.
Okay, so
to
it's a
Alaska.
cruise.
So yeah,
Okay.
7 nights. So it was a blast.
Nice.
So
So what all did you do?
shoot, we went to a bunch of different ports, and then obviously we did an excursion every day. We were in the actual ports of Alaska. So the first 2 days we were at sea, and then we went to just to name a couple. We went to Sitka, Juneau, and Icy Strait Point, and then also we ended up in Victoria, British Columbia. But we did it was basically all hiking stuff, just to get in the views and that kind of thing.
Right.
Just because we have some hills in Georgia and stuff, but they don't compare to
Our
those freaking
mountains
Alaska
are
mountains,
not
man.
even-
Those things are
Yeah.
like pictures and video. It just doesn't even do it justice. You know what I mean? So it looks way smaller, like on the scale, but in person they're just massive.
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
I
So-
remember the first time like we went out to Colorado on our like honeymoon road trip, and when we finally got like a good view, we were both just like, wow.
Yeah, no, it's literally breathtaking.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we definitely want to go back, kind of just explore on our own, because on the cruise you kind of stuck to the schedule. You got to leave by a
Right.
certain time, be back at the ship by a certain time.
So where'd you
know.
you flew out of here, obviously. And
Yep,
then you
from
went
Atlanta to Seattle.
Okay.
And then
Is that where it took off?
Yeah, so we left on the airport. We got there a day early so we could get to Seattle, kind of get a hotel, decompress. That way we're not rushing from the airport to the ship. And this was our first cruise, so we didn't know how it worked getting to the dock and kind of the process. So we just wanted to give ourselves a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Which was definitely worth it. It was, now that we know, though, we could probably get away with it next time, but it was good.
Did you do anything in Seattle?
So just ate at a couple places, walked around downtown, and they have that I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they have this I can't remember what they call it. It's a harbor, but there's a name for it. I think it's called the Market or Public Market, something like that. And it's like this big, it's really really famous in Seattle. But they got a bunch of shops and food and all that kind of stuff. So we walked there, killed time. It was a good time.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely just we're ready to go over to Alaska. So
Yeah.
kind of just a layover, if you would.
Okay.
But
Like any good hikes in Alaska?
oh god, dude, it was every one of them was good.
Like where'd you go?
So we did. Let's see, we didn't do one in Sitka. I think we did like a tour of Sitka. That was really cool. But for hiking, we did Icy Strait Point and what was the other one? I just said in Juneau. But Icy Strait Point, we took like a gondola up to. There's two different gondolas. One's like a free one that takes you to the like town area where you can go shops and eat and views, all that kind of stuff. But there's a paid one, which was counted as an excursion. And it's a lot taller. It takes you to the very top of the mountain, and I can't remember the elevation, but it's huge. Do some views up there, but then we actually found out they had like a hiking trail up there that we didn't know about. And went on that, and turns out there was a bear on it. So it was like, I want to say it was like a mile trail or something like that. But we the guide told us that it was going to be halfway because he went out that morning to scout, around to make sure it was safe for the day, and he found a mama bear and some cubs down toward the back half of the trail. So he said normally, like, he gave us the whole speech when we were in a big group. He was a armed guard and everything because they have all their hikes. They have armed. They call them bear security because they're out there and they, luckily they said that they haven't had to fire a shot in 20 years of tours.
There you go.
So, I mean, they've been pretty safe, but just in case.
Right.
But he said he was out there early in the morning, probably like 5 o'clock by himself, which he said is the most dangerous time around bears. And it's heavily wooded, so like you can't see them unless they're like right on top of you. But he was out there, scouting around. Said that he came across, or he was walking down the road, and he heard like leaves rustling and stuff, and kind of heard like a faint growl. So he said he turned, and it was up like behind him and above him on a ridge. And he turned around and saw like the mama bear. And he didn't know this, but just maybe 20 feet from him, on the other side of a ditch, were the cubs. So he couldn't visually see the cubs, but he could hear them kind of. He heard them bleeding, and he was in between.
Oh boy!
So that mama bear came down and charged him, and said it got about 4 feet from him. And he was about to pull the trigger, but it, kind of reared up and then luckily turned around and left. But I was surprised that he even let it come 4 feet because those things charge you. And
that's some discipline right there.
Yeah. So he said that he almost broke that rule, that 20-year non-firing, and it would have happened that morning. But luckily, So he told us that story. Everybody was just like, oh, my God, Of course, we wanted to go see the bear, but.
How old is he?
He wouldn't let us. That guy was probably like 40, but he was ex-military and
experienced.
Yeah, so we
very comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. I think he was like some sort of special ops or something too. So
40 or sorry.
He has a little side gig. So yeah, he comes and he said he goes. Sorry.
Go for it.
Gotta keep my energy up. But most of the people in Alaska, don't live, like the people that do those tours and stuff don't live there. I think he normally lives in California with his family or whatever, but he'll come up for like, the summer months of the touring, and he'll come up and just work and
I've heard that.
And do bear security.
A lot of it's seasonal.
Yeah, because it's a beautiful place.
The winters are unbearable.
Yes, the winters are crazy, and it always like it just rains all the time in Alaska. It's not very, contrary to popular belief, where it's you look at like the show with like Palin and all that stuff, where they you have these it's all sunny and beautiful, but. And it is sometimes, but it pretty much rains all the time in Alaska. So it's not the best place to be year round, and especially with
colder Seattle.
Yeah, dude, and especially because it's like you gotta everything in Alaska has to be either shipped in or flown in. So the prices of everything is more expensive. Takes longer for stuff to get there. So it's just not the best place to be. Year round, but a couple months. Bear security, whatever.
Make some money.
You get to do some fitness, make some money.
Absolutely.
So it worked out, but that was a pretty awesome hike. I would have liked to go down and see the bear, but yeah, he wouldn't let us. So
yeah, I wouldn't.
But it's one of those things. It's like you wanted to, but then it's like, do you want to see it?
I would attempt it.
Yeah, I would attempt it.
I've seen like bears up here, just kind of like passing on the road, and like I'm still 100 feet away, and have a vehicle in between them as well, and I'm like.
Well, that's the crazy thing is that I saw more bears in Gatlinburg, like the city of Gatlinburg, than in Alaska. We didn't see a single bear in Alaska, which is interesting.
Yeah, I heard something the other day, like the greatest population of like black bear in the States is New Jersey. I was like,
that is surprising.
Of all places, like New Jersey. Interesting.
Yeah. They have the largest, out where we were, the largest like coastal brown bear population. They said there was the same guide pointed over like across the way. It's like because Icy Strait Point is just an island, you know. So he pointed across the water at a different island that was, you know, massive, and he was like, "That's okay." He was like, "That's the."
You're good.
Okay, I don't know, I was cutting out. But he pointed across the water and was like, "That island has the largest amount, like anywhere."
Was he pointing at Vancouver?
Like, no, not Vancouver. It was just a different.
Like, I've heard Vancouver has like a huge population density of like bear, wolves, mountain lion. It's just,
I don't remember the name of it, but it was just like just an isolated island that for some reason that's where all the bears were. So I was like, okay. He's like, the cave systems and stuff in there. He's like, there was like over like 400 caves, like known bear caves and stuff on there. So I wouldn't want to go over there. That's needless to say.
Yeah.
I'll do a helicopter, but I ain't going over there.
That's cool though.
Yeah, man. But it was awesome.
Anything else interesting from Alaska?
I think we started to talk about it last time you were at the station, but at one of the ports we were looking at, because we were always trying to like buy, you know, tourist stuff and whatever knickknacks from everywhere we go. There's a fur store that had the real furs, like of all types of animals and stuff, and it was like, but I was saying it was the cheapest one was probably $4,000, you know, and then there was some that you would probably put like on a bed for like decoration or, you know, warmth or whatever,
or the bear
skin rug. Yeah, like you know, you put it at the end of the bed or whatever, and it was like $20,000.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I guess some people can afford it, but
that's a lot
you know,
of money.
if you're retired and
yeah,
you cruise every year or whatever, and you can 20,000 bear rug. Not me.
Ridiculous.
But
yeah, so you said like you're a big collectible guy, and like your thing is armor or helmets more specifically, right?
Yeah, helmets right now, and armor and weaponry to follow.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm slowly amassing my collection. Also trying to work out the space of where I'm going to put all that, because right now I'm only given a room for my wife, so
all right.
I got to figure out how to make that work.
So what do you have so far? Like,
so
you said just helmets, right?
Yeah,
as of right
just
now?
helmets. But I want to say 4 or 5. I have a Roman Centurion helmet. I've got like a traditional Norse. I don't like using the term Viking too much, but Viking helmet. I have a Mongol type helmet, like a Attila type thing. And I have a knight helmet. So I'm trying to get some more, but the plan is to get more and then also match the armor and weapons with the helmets. So, you know, to kind of make a display out of it, you know. So it's kind of nerd out a little bit on that kind of stuff. But like I said, the room is going to be interesting. How to,
yeah, that'd be cool. Whole
you know,
suit of armor.
it might be a thing I'll have to, you know, collect it and then like in a later on house have a basement or something I can put it all in and display it. But
just your Batman cages.
Just exactly, just the bat cave of just armor.
So what made you want to like get armor or the helmets to start off with specifically?
Yeah. So for people who don't know, I'm a super history nerd to begin with. And specifically like everything warfare and related. And I'm also really big on like decor, not so much like home decor, like in a traditional sense, but kind of just the man cave, you know, putting stuff together that, and I'm obviously, since I'm super into history, it just only made sense to you know, especially ancient history and stuff with all the really cool, just shiny, you know, fancy looking stuff. So that kind of led to just wanting to collect it, you know, just bit by bit.
So like, where would you cut it off as like the stuff that like timeline wise that you would like, that's too present day, like?
Probably, I would say World War II is probably the furthest I get, and not that the modern stuff isn't interesting. I think it's really cool, like Vietnam and stuff. You know, like it, or even this super recent stuff. It's cool, but you know,
it doesn't have the same appeal.
It doesn't have the same appeal.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, so that's where that comes from. So I'm hoping.
Well, what's your favorite piece so far?
It's gotta be the Roman.
Roman one.
Yeah, I love Rome. So that's my favorite. And the Norse is a close second. So those two are gonna be my priorities.
So I'm sure like you've watched like all the, if it's a TV show or movie.
Oh,
like
dude, TV
Rome,
show, video game, movie, whatever. I've probably seen it. Yeah. So.
Did you watch the Rome on HBO?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, that was a really.
That was pretty good.
I liked it. I liked how it was like just two
They
seasons.
went really political with it, like showing a lot of the politics, you know, kind of daily life side. I would say more so than the war, you know. But I thought that was pretty cool because you don't see a whole lot of that stuff, you know.
Well, I think that's like more just HBO in general.
And it probably
like,
is too.
Yeah,
yeah.
They've always been like more about the character development instead of like the big action scenes.
Yeah.
Because I kept like itching for a big scene.
I know.
And then like it was like a footnote.
Yeah. Well, then they went off and did Game of Thrones, and they were like, well, we'll just.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
And then we'll just do all battle, you know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was good. So yeah, anything Rome, I'm just nerd out over. So,
is there like what kind of helmet do you have specifically? You said Centurion.
Yeah, it's a Centurion, which is basically just the regular.
They're like sergeants, right?
Yeah, it's like
kind
an NCO.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Well, kind of. Yeah, basically almost like a mix between an NCO and an officer because they do duties of both, basically, or did. But the helmet itself is basically a regular infantry helmet, but what set them apart was the plume.
Yeah.
So
that's the one that goes laterally across the face, not front to back.
Right. Yeah.
Or side to side instead of front to back.
Yeah. So traditionally, it's been side to side. There has been notings of it being forward to back. And the helmet that I have is forward to back, and that's only because I couldn't find a sideways one in the style that I wanted. You know, they had like the little like smaller model sized, but I was like, I want like the
I want to put
not
it
that
on.
not that I'm gonna wear it around the house or anything, but
I'm gonna put it on.
But if I want to put it on and wear it, I could. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so and the only option was to do front to back on that.
Okay.
But all my helmets are wearable, and they're they're real, so they're super heavy and all that stuff. But
how much does a helmet weigh?
Shoot, it's probably almost 10 pounds.
10 pounds.
Yeah, close because it's just straight like steel. You know, it's just heavy. And then you got like chains. If like for the Norse helmet, you have like chains and the chainmail that comes on the back to protect the neck and the shoulders, and that adds a lot of weight to it too.
I was thinking about that, like with our fire helmets and everything. Like ours are so off balanced and
like,
they sit so high up.
Yes,
like the weight is more prominent. I guess like
yep.
You
notice a lot more,
yeah, versus like actually being like centered around
compact
the head.
and it's a lot more like
you could feel it, but it's not like that huge weight that's like sitting way out here.
Yeah, those helmets like they form to your head super well, and they just pretty much put all the pressure straight on your neck, like on your spine and stuff. So it actually is easier to handle because it's like midline, so your body distributes the weight actually a little bit better. You know, assuming that you can fit the helmet, obviously. Yeah. But
I mean, like the fact that
the knowledge that went into it is crazy. You know, like they could figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, just thinking about like real ancient times, like BC times, where like you just had like the chest piece, and like more than likely it was leather, or and then you had like your greaves, your gauntlets, and then your helmet, and then like you go up to knights, like Crusader knights.
Yeah.
Just the ability to like stay on the battlefield and fight.
Yeah.
And the endurance level.
Yeah. And and it's funny too though. It's a common misconception is that I mean it's true in the sense of how heavy it was, obviously, just because it was, like I said, pure steel and just pure weight, but it was actually distributed very well, and it was a lot more mobile than people think. Like when you see like shows and stuff, a lot of them it's very clunky, and they almost can't move and do anything.
Right.
But did a lot of research on it and stuff. But it was actually pretty. Like they had the way that they had full range of motion in their arms because the way they did the pieces. So it wasn't always just like blocky and chunky. It was heavy, but they actually had pretty good mobility in it too.
So
which is interesting.
Like let's say like the knights and everything. Like, I mean, I'm sure that's like what you're referencing to, more of like the full body suit.
Right, that's what I'm referencing. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm thinking like there's obviously got to be like for a person who can afford armor.
That was a big deal too. Yeah.
You got a set for like your javelin. So like that's different than like your battlefield armor. I'm guessing.
For what do you mean? Like
for
are we talking about specific like Rome right now? The Roman armor?
I was just saying like in the Imperial. Sorry, not
just that time
the
frame.
Crusader armor.
Okay.
Yeah, like. If you're riding a horse and like all you're wanting to do is like the javelin for like these contests.
Oh yeah, tournaments and that kind of stuff.
Like a tournament set.
Yeah, definitely different.
Like, yeah, you don't need that mobility.
No.
versus like Battlefield. It's like, okay, I need to
Yeah.
prioritize mobility over just being able to take a hit.
Right. Yeah. If you were just doing like a joust or something, yeah, they were just every
You just locked
the
up
heavier
and-
you could get, hard to make it knock you off the horse or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that's definitely different between Battlefield and tournament type stuff. But I'm just amazed at the thought they put into it. It's pretty amazing.
There's a lot of science.
And the engineering
yeah.
and everything is just, with what they had, is just incredible. When you think about it,
It's wild.
it is.
What's your favorite set? Like if you had to like choose just one like time frame, like armor wise,
Mhm.
like what's like your
It's got to be Rome.
Rome?
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah, and they were. I mean, and when
Just
you
the
put it,
stylization that they had.
yes. Like if you put it on like the display, which is the idea is I'm gonna get like not necessarily a mannequin, but more a stand where I can basically put all my stuff and make it look like a like a mannequin, essentially all the
Right.
armor and stuff. Like people do it with samurai armor. You see them
Oh,
just
yeah.
display it, and that's another thing too. That's beautiful in itself.
Oh,
we
yeah.
can talk about that in a minute, but Roman, just because it's, I don't know, so aesthetically pleasing, I guess.
I've always favored the Greek side more.
The Greeks,
Yeah.
okay, kind of
Like-
that Spartan
No, well, not
range. I always put them together just because it's, I don't know why, but they're
yeah,
different.
I mean,
but
like
I
everybody
always,
just associates
Greece
Spartans
and
to Greek.
Sparta, you
yeah. But like
I'm not too familiar on Greece, so I can't really speak to that as far
like
as
the
armor
Peloponnesian
and-
War time frame, like that
Okay.
was like really cool.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I mean, that was Sparta and Athens.
Right.
But like Alexander the Great,
Mm-hmm.
like the style of armor that he had.
Yeah,
And then
it's
like
pretty cool.
instead of like the Roman gladius, he had like what's it called? Is it Falcutta?
Or I don't know if this is the wrong time
Atlas?
period, but the falchion, is that the wrong?
I don't
period?
know.
I don't know.
I want to
either.
say Falcutta, but I'm
Falcutta.
thinking that's wrong as well. But
I don't
like
know.
it's naturally got like a little bit of a curve to it, and the tip is
Yeah, it's not the falchion then. That's not
the
it.
tip is a lot
Thicker, wider,
yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean it's meant
Slashing,
for
yeah.
cavalry
Yeah.
slashing.
Yep.
Yeah.
a lot heavier at the front end.
Yeah. So it's
But-
like you got that forward weight to just
Oh yeah, dude. Just wherever you just let the gravity do the work,
Yeah.
man. That's what's cool about like speaking about the Gladius and stuff. That stuff was just, it was so compact,
Yeah.
But it was just,
I mean it was like a
and the
backup
Gladius was
weapon.
cool too because it was thinner in the front because it could do everything. It could slash, stab, But interesting if like the stabbing stuff, it was thinner at the top and then widened toward the middle, which is pretty gnarly. But
Why was that?
so that's just for maximum damage.
Okay.
Because the smaller the point is, the easier it is to penetrate. And then,
I thought you were talking about like the blade width. Like yeah, I get obviously. Like,
yeah,
this-
I was.
Oh,
But
okay.
it gets wider because as you stab, it's just purely because it just does more damage,
Okay.
rather than it's just it creates a larger opening as you go and just increases that mortality rate, which is everything all they cared about. So it was brutal back then, man. But
Yeah.
that stuff, that the weapons and armory and stuff is really cool. So that's kind of
I read something more like the Gladius was used more for like a inner leg kind of just slash.
yeah,
than
almost
it was
yeah.
like, than it was like a hacking kind of thing.
Yeah, because then the way they fought too, they didn't have
phalanx.
room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be like throwing haymakers and stuff. They had to
Right,
just
It's just
peek out with the
just weaken
just
some
gonna
dude in the
stab you,
legs.
stab you right here. But yeah, that's
Just cut the femoral artery and just, dude drops.
yeah, it's nuts, dude. But that's kind of what got me into wanting to do some bladesmithing. So that's gonna be my
The next.
next hobby. Moving into, I don't know about armor is a whole different beast, but I got to start with start small, with knives, and eventually the goal is to work my way up towards doing stuff like swords and like axes and larger stuff. But got to get good at the small stuff. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
and because I have zero, I have the interest, but I have zero ability or knowledge on how that works. So I have to.
Have
you
you
know.
like looked up like classes?
Yeah. So I've looked. There's actually a couple places in Atlanta and not necessarily downtown, but just surrounding. But they do bladesmithing classes, and you'll pay per session, and they'll like teach you how to do like I think they start with like railroad spikes and just learning how to manipulate metal and stuff,
Right.
and
then walk out
get
of there
used
with
to
a
it,
with a knife.
understand how the heat works and how to just move metal, heat and cool it and stuff before you start to work on the finesse of
So I'm sure
that
you
is
watched the show
bladesmithing.
like
So
Forged in Fire.
yeah, that's what started it. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's you take the history, knowledge and interest, and then you watch Forged in Fire, and if you don't want to bladesmith by 2 episodes in, then I don't know what to say. But
I don't know what's wrong with you.
yeah, it's just but they make it look easy. That's the thing. But
They do.
I want to try it, so we'll see.
That'd be cool to do as well. It's just like everything costs so much money.
It does, and that's another thing is that
it's like this is obviously like your thing, so like you're gonna put a lot of focus into it. And it's like I collect a lot of gear, so it's just like anything to do outside. It's like that's where my money's gone, and now I want to do other things, and it's just don't have enough. I think
the hardest part with like any of it is just getting started.
That and
like,
too many hobbies.
Yeah, and that's true. You have to kind of temper yourself. Luckily with me, that would be my only expensive hobby, I would say, because otherwise I'm just a gamer or snowboarder in the winter season. But other than that, I don't do anything to where I'm outputting a lot of money. So at least I'll be able to pretty much fully focus on that once I decide to do it. I don't know when that will be, but that's my next plan.
So like, what got you into like all the historical stuff? Was it like a certain book or a certain movie?
I think it was probably
school.
Yeah, school played a big part of it. But honestly, it was probably either. Of course, it was a long time ago because I was a little kid when I got interested in that kind of stuff. So it was probably a movie or a video game. To the best of my knowledge, but I've been playing the war games and stuff, since like before Halo and all that stuff, which obviously isn't in the realm of history and stuff, but just that aspect of war and fighting and stuff got me interested.
Just like seeing all the different armor and how you custom.
Yeah, and it's the tactics and stuff.
Yeah.
I was always super interested in, and it just kind of bled. School obviously expanded upon that, and then just
you see the cool pictures in the books. You're like,
wow, oh yeah, dude, yeah. Watching everybody, all my friends and stuff was funny. They would, they were into stuff like. I mean, I like sports too, but they were into sports and different hobbies and stuff, and I was like really into I would just go and watch like war documentaries and stuff, which is a niche market. A lot of people don't find that stuff interesting, but I could easily just put on. I still do it now. I watched it last night at the station actually, like 2 a.m. But I'll throw on like a World War II documentary or just something, and it's.
I still want to watch the one where they colorized it.
Yes, I've seen that. They have a couple of those, but they're really cool.
Yeah,
that brings out a whole nother aspect.
Yeah,
when you see it
bring
in color,
it a little bit more to real life.
Yeah, because if you figure it was not that long ago, but when it's in black and white, it just feels like it's, ancient.
Yeah,
but when you see it in color, it's like, oh, okay, this is there's a human aspect of it. You know what I mean? So for sure.
Yeah,
but that's probably where that started.
Yeah, I remember my mom would watch a lot of like the AMC movies, like the old black and whites and everything. So I remember like watching like Spartacus and Ben-Hur and just all that stuff. And I'm like,
Ben-Hur, God, it's throwback.
Yeah.
That
was
awesome.
A long movie.
Yeah, it was.
And then what was the other one? Lawrence of Arabia. Another like just amazingly great movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like seeing all the cool armor and everything, like that's always been just it's like bring it back.
I know. It's just you can't.
But I think like those historical like ancient movies and like the fantasy kind of like appeal to people because it's like, you're wearing something that's just like it's from a bygone era. Like even the cloaks.
Yeah,
just like a simple cloak. And I was reading something that with the advent of like the sewing machine and like streamlining sewing processes, the cloak just disappeared because like now you could actually have like a tailored jacket,
right?
That's like fitted to you versus just taking a big square and sewing.
So classic, though,
sewing a line that you're just like, right, cool, we got to keep.
Yep, to just rapidly produce those things, like that's cool.
Time changes and
it's true.
Like there goes
phases
like one of the
out.
coolest things from like history is just like that wool cloak. That
I know. I think part of the reason of collecting is just, of course, it's obviously me buying a couple pieces isn't gonna affect a whole lot, but I think it's just cool keeping that interest or just history alive,
You're just learning as you go too.
Yeah, but I mean, I think each generation, as you go by, they care less and less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, history, I think in schools is like, I think I read something somewhere that it was like the least interesting, as far as what they said. It was the least interesting class. Like, nobody enjoyed history. Like, it was like you just take it because the school offers it, and then they couldn't care less,
The history, social studies, geography.
But that was what I was
always loved
into.
it. Yeah,
I got straight A's in history and stuff because I was, it wasn't just like, okay, teacher's teaching you something, you memorize it, take a test, data dump it, right? It was like I was interested in it, so I was like learning and applying, so that helped. But
versus just reading like the English classics.
Yeah, like what I did in math, and that's why I'm so bad at math today, because I just, tell me how to solve for X, and then I forget it. That's,
I went as high as like statistics. Like,
Dude.
Okay, that's enough for me.
Yeah, I was not good at math, but history and science and stuff, that was my forte.
Yeah.
But so I think collecting and stuff is kind of like my own way of kind of just, aside from just my personal interest, it's kind of like, all right, this is something that I want to have, and then kind of share and hopefully inspire an interest in it with my own kid later on.
Right.
So kind of keep it going.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
So like the shields and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a certain one that like a style from like that time frame, or is it just like all like Roman just checks that box for you?
Yeah, that it does. But with shields, it's really interesting. So the Romans is super cool, and that's actually the first. Well, I already have a Norse one. I'll talk about that here in a second. But the Roman one is just super cool just because the aesthetic of it, because it was just that towering, head to below your kneecap shield.
It was ornate too.
And it was ornate, and it was just super, super cool. It's just everything visually. That's why I'm so into the Roman stuff, because visually it was just, and compared to like who they were fighting, it was like they were very, shiny and ornate and
colorful.
Everything they did had a lot of
structured.
thought to it. Every piece had a reason, and they were obviously the number one, most powerful army for a reason. But compared to everybody else who just, like they fought like the like the woodland guys, the Celts and all this kind of, the Gaelic people, and they were just, like the termed as like barbarians and stuff, because they would have just crude, like weaponry, and they didn't have armor really. I mean, some places they would have leather and like hide, but a lot of times they were just barebacked or had a little bear fur or something thrown over, and they were just
absolutely
charging the dang Roman lines with the tower shields and armor. Must have been crazy, but
Like
just that dichotomy,
that
the
opening scene of Gladiator.
I'm telling you, bro, that is top tier. I've seen that movie probably 20 times, and it's just like,
those are rookie numbers.
Yeah. I've probably seen more than that, but I always like stand up and pace the room, just like, yeah. But
it's an amazing.
It's
scene.
cool, man, and they did a really good job with that. But yeah, that armor is awesome. And I already have a Norse shield, which is actually really cool. That was my wife's idea, actually. That when we got married,
that's more of like a buckle shield.
It's
Just
like it's
circular.
solid wood. It's solid wood in the just a circle, like, and you can buy stuff online that has like designs on it and stuff. But I'm kind of a purist when it comes to that. Like, I don't like. I find fantasy armor and that kind of stuff really cool, but like I don't want to buy it and display it just because I like the real history stuff, So stuff like, I don't know, World of Warcraft and that kind of stuff, I don't really want to buy, it's whatever.
No, I get it.
But what was I saying with the shield? She said it would be a good idea to buy that for the wedding, because weddings when you attend a wedding, they have a guest book, and it's normally just like a paper, you just sign your name or whatever. But we kind of wanted to do a cool spin on it, so our wedding was actually like Norse themed. So we had a lot of like, I don't know, florals and like fur type displays, and it was very like Norse themed, and it was
That's
pretty
cool.
cool because you don't normally see stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I'm lucky because she doesn't take an interest in history like I do, but she's cool enough to where she's like, it interests you, so it interests me, and we can do it. So I was like, awesome. But the shield itself we used as the guest book.
That's cool.
So we hung that up on the front, and then everybody came and signed their name or whatever, or like a wish for the wedding, good wish or whatever. So that's pretty cool. So then we displayed it. When we lived in Adairsville, we had displayed it on the wall. So it kind of was like a two birds one stone thing. Like,
That's cool.
I get to display a shield, and it's also a memento for my
wedding.
marriage. So
Yeah,
it's pretty neat.
That's cool.
But yeah, the Roman shield is next. That's coming next.
Okay.
Which
Does you say it's a legit Viking shield?
Mm-hmm.
So does it have just like the handle on the back, or does it have like the straps to where it's like you're almost kind of bracing against your whole forearm?
So mine doesn't have the straps.
It's just the one.
It's
handle.
just the like the indention inside with the handle on it.
Okay.
Yeah, the braces. I know there's definitely historical evidence of that being there.
Mm-hmm.
But I just couldn't find one that had
Okay.
it. You know, like I'm sure you could probably fasten it up, and you could put some straps on it if I wanted to, or kind of DIY it. You know, but
Fasten like grommet a
yeah.
leather strap in there.
But also probably wouldn't be a good idea though, because then I'd be running around the house, you know, and I'd be like, put that back on the wall.
So you're gonna damage it.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So
Like running with scissors.
I know. Yeah, pains me because that's all what I want to do, man. But it's like she's like, man, this is a memento of our wedding. You can't play with it. I'm like, all right, fine.
Just sit on the couch and watch movies with
Yeah, just sit there and watch
shield.
Dude, I would. No joke. So funny.
That's cool. So big Viking fan,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. I'm sure you've watched like the show and everything.
Oh yeah,
too,
full Norse sleeve, man.
So what's on the sleeve?
So I have on my inner arm, I have a landscape piece with Odin over here. I got the Viking ship and the aquatic scene on this side, and then I have the helmet right here.
Okay.
With the raven on the top, and I got a raven on my inside. So because the Odin theory with
Hugin
the
immune.
Hugin immune.
Yeah.
I need to catch on to that. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
cool. So I got them both.
I'm probably not as big of a nerd on that stuff as you, but like I still love all the history, the Norse, the mythology behind everything too.
Yep.
And that was another thing. It's just like the history is one very cool aspect of it all.
Oh yeah,
It's like whether it's like the Greeks or the Romans or the Norse or even the Japanese and the samurai and all that, but it's just like the mythology and the legends that follow or like come from it. It's like that's almost like I nerd out more on like the mythology than the actual history of it all.
It's a curious blend of the two as well. You know, because there's parallels between both. Right. You know, like
I mean, there's always some kind of like truth to stories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And especially being that, you know, they didn't have much I don't say literacy, but they didn't have a whole lot of written
Well, I mean, it was all
stuff.
oral tradition.
Oral
like
stories and stuff, which is that's so cool. You know,
yeah,
like
you're not sitting down
stories
watching
around
TV
the campfire or in the mead halls and stuff, and telling stories, and that stuff is really cool.
Like being one of those guys that can like get up there and like captivate an audience.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, okay, it's like I went fishing, but it's like, oh, it was the giant fish. It's like you like
20 stories tall. Yeah, but just the ability to do that, and then who knows how much deviation from the truth to the myth bled through that, but it's pretty cool.
So like, what would be like your let's just say like Norse specifically right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's like your more like favorite like mythology behind that all?
It's got to be Ragnarok, man.
Okay,
that's cool. It's just like it's the idea of, I don't for the viewers, I'm sure they've heard the term. It's pretty common, even if you're not super into that, you probably have heard the term. But for people who don't, it's basically like the Norse version of the apocalypse. So it's but instead of it being something like man-made, like how we think about today, like with it being like either weather-related or caused by us, for them it was like a battle of the gods. It was, there's these two different basically planes, Aesir and the Vanir, and they, basically have like each side is just basically stacked. You got Thor on one side, Odin, and all these key mythology characters, and they all basically battle, and it causes the destruction of the world. But all the mythology surrounding it is just
isn't there something like
really cool?
What was it, Jormungandr or
Jormungandr,
the snake,
the sea serpent? Yeah.
So
the Great World Serpent. Mm-hmm.
So it has something to do with him and Fenrir.
Fenrir, yeah, he's the wolf, Odin's son.
But I mean, aren't there like stages to it?
Like
something kicks off, which then leads to it's like Fenrir gets released, and then
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sea
yeah,
serpent
yeah. Fenrir,
swallows.
yes,
Or,
yeah. Fenrir was caged up and set free, and then
which is what, like Loki's son too?
something like that. I think I said Odin's son, but I don't think that's right. I
think
can't remember off the
Fenrir's
top of my head, but
Loki's son.
I think so. That sounds right. But basically just this giant wolf. They set him free, and then he goes and I think he's the one that eats Odin.
I think Balder.
I think he eats Odin. Fenrir does. I think it's part of it. But
Okay.
yeah, basically just why they release him. That's kind of the moral of the story. But
Yeah, so like bites off somebody's arm and then like eats somebody else.
yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's you dive into it, and there is a lot more to it. I just had a brief synopsis, but I encourage people to go out there and if they're interested and read it because there's just so much about it. It's really cool, Man, just because it's just like a battle of the Titans. So I mean, that's how it doesn't really get much more interesting than a bunch of freaking gods battling each other and stuff, duking it out. So,
what about like Roman wise?
Probably. So speaking of mythology, still.
Yeah.
Man, I don't. Roman mythology. I'm not too big on Roman mythology, just because they took a lot from the Greeks. They pretty much took everything from their civilization from the Greeks, like religion and
they just
all that other
names.
stuff, and they just changed names.
Yeah.
Which is still cool. There's a lot of cool things, like
Heracles became
different
Hercules.
god for all these different things,
Yeah.
But god of wine. But that's exactly what they did. They just changed the names.
Yeah.
So I'm as far as the mythology stuff goes, I'm not too knowledgeable on that, just because I don't find it as interesting as like the Norse mythology and stuff.
Okay.
But with Rome, it's more so just about their history and them as not so much the religion aspect, but
I want to know if it doesn't really fall under like mythology, but just like the literature, like the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Like the story of Achilles and like the Battle of Troy, and then like Odysseus coming home. Like those stories, I remember watching those movies as a kid. Just like the
the stuff like the Labyrinth and all that kind of stuff, the Minotaur and all that. Yeah. What's that other one about the
Daedalus and Icarus
classic. What's that one with the guy, his wife was in like Hades, and he like went to go get her, and like that was a crazy story, but like he had to go get her, but the condition was like Hades said that he would allow the wife to go back with him, like take him back to the world of the living, and so they could be together and stuff. But he was like, the only condition is he's like, you cannot turn around and look at her. He's like, if you do that, like she's staying. And of course, so he's like, basically leading her like to the mortal world from Hades, and he gets like right to the top, like gets right where he's about to, but he just can't take it because he's been without her for like a pretty decent amount of time, just missed her, all that kind of stuff, like anybody else would, and he just couldn't resist, and he looked around, and he turned around, and she wasn't there, and she was gone.
Dang.
But I can't remember.
I don't think I've heard that one.
I can't remember the name of that story, but and obviously there's a lot more to it again, but that's a very brief history. But that story is really cool because I think it kind of, a lot of those stories that they said was kind of cool because obviously they all have that kind of like mythological aspect to it, and where if you believe it happened or didn't happen, obviously that's part of myth, but the stories you get from it, are very relatable.
Yeah,
with all this kind of Icarus,
parables,
all those kind of things, they all have lessons and they all translate.
Yeah.
I think really well if you like look into it, and that's
really
so. The more you dive into it, man, the more you just get like captivated.
I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and they were talking about some dude was like deciphering, or not really deciphering, but like it was his like interpretation on like the lessons that can be learned from the 7 labors of Hercules / Heracles, and like what each one meant and everything like that, and like how you can apply those to like everyday life.
Yeah.
And there's like so many of those. It's like these cool stories that they had like an amazing, awesome story to like follow along with, and you were like, fully entertained, and then at the end of it, it's just like, well, the lesson is, and
right, yeah. There's always an underside to it that
Yeah.
you can apply, which is pretty cool.
it's like we don't get that anymore. It's just like we get like
Right.
a Marvel movie or we get
Exactly.
like a cool action
Yeah.
movie, but there's no like real lesson to it.
Right.
Versus like back in the day, it's like
Yeah.
all these like Perseus and Pericles. And,
Yeah. They blended it all so well. It was like so interesting,
Yeah.
But then, yeah, those moral lessons and stuff were always really, really cool. And I think that's a big aspect of the passing it generation by generation.
that
I think
oral
that's
tradition. Yeah.
it's huge. But
Yeah.
like you said, we're definitely losing that. If it's not already lost. I don't know.
Some people still have that gift of
Some people do, and it's
oration, storytelling.
Bo, if you would.
Yeah.
He's one.
One of the
watches
Roman
this.
ones. I mentioned Damocles before, right?
Yes. I
And it's
think
like
you
such like a. It's not even like a big story, but it's just like it's almost like an anecdote from like a bigger thing. But just that idea of like this guy admiring, or not really even like admiring, but just like being almost kind of like jealous and
did. Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you have it so easy, king. You have like all these gifts, and like you have all this stuff that like you don't even have to want for anything. And he's like, here, have it for the day.
Right. Yeah.
But then he hangs a sword from the ceiling, like hung by a horsehair,
yeah.
and the dude's just like freaking
Oh
out
my
the
God.
entire day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, have it back. He goes, I don't want it. And he's like,
Yep.
that's how I feel every day. It's just like the sword of Damocles. I love that, like that
Yeah.
metaphor of like, I think like any person in like office, like congressional, the president, like
Oh,
put
yeah.
that sword up there.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't.
You don't know when it's going to
Yeah.
drop.
People always don't know, or the grass is greener on the other side type thing. It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing, but it's so true. So true. All this stuff is really, really. Yeah. I think we're losing it though. It's really sad to see. Pains me.
Yep.
That's why I try to do all this research and stuff. So
Just look back on the good times.
yeah, so man, those were the days, those were the days. How you say that?
Is there like a specific?
Of course, it's also sorry to interrupt. But it's
No,
probably
you're-
also one of the worst times to be alive as well. Can't fail to mention that.
I don't know about that.
As
Like-
far as probably, if you live there, you'd be used to it because it's your way of life. But like
Oh,
speaking,
you're talking about back then.
I'm talking about speaking about yes, like living back
okay.
then. Like if that's how you lived for them, that's all they knew. So it probably wasn't that bad. But how we live now, looking back, because
I thought you were talking about like present day. I'm like,
No.
I was like, it's pretty.
but we were
easy.
speaking on like the fantasization of like kind of the romanticization, I guess you could say, of how the days of antiquity and all that kind of stuff, and it seems all glorious and
stories of honor,
yeah.
and courage.
But then you just look at history, and it was like, man, that's probably wasn't the best time,
plague.
considering like you were old if you were 40, like you the equivalent of living 90 years,
Yeah, you don't know if like whoever's coming in to
You're just
invade
a peasant in your village, you wake up on a random Tuesday, you're doing your chores, and all of a sudden an army comes and burns your village down. It's just crazy stuff like
Yeah.
that, that
Or dude, just like even like a normal Roman soldier, like you're gone for like 10 years.
yeah.
Like you just get conscripted, and then like all of a sudden it's just like I don't even have a choice of what I do, and like I've been gone from home for a decade
Yep.
because some dude named Julius Caesar wants
Exactly.
to go like kill the Celts.
Exactly. Yeah. Funny thing about that, they actually had pensions though.
Yeah,
Which
I
was
did hear about
interesting.
that.
That
Like you
was-
did get paid, and like you did have like the soldier.
They had a salary, they had a pension, and they got of course they had like 20-year service, I think it was what it was.
That's typical for the military.
But yeah, you figure it,
but I
but
mean, the odds of
that's the thing though. Yeah, like you can go to, North Carolina and you sit in your base or whatever, but these dudes were like fighting, like constant wars for 20 years. So if you made it 20 years, then good on you, because you deserve that pension, and I think they gave you like a farm too. They gave you a place
like a salty veteran. At
They
that
gave you a
point.
plot of land and some money, some pension, but of course that's probably why they did that though, because they didn't have to give that reward out to too many folks,
Like if you did make it, like
Yeah.
Here's
All
your-
10 people that ever managed to achieve that, live in their own little village.
them with their group of like gladiators that actually made it to their
Oh yeah.
what was it? The sword of
I don't know.
you're given like a
the
wooden
the
sword.
wooden sword to symbolize your freedom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's like, yay.
There's only a handful of them too.
Yep. Then you go outside and
They're in their own little
get
village.
stabbed in the street or something, You know,
Yeah.
very negative, but hey, it happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You couldn't.
You just didn't know.
Yeah, it's just there were no. I want to say there were no rules, but it was barbaric back then.
Yeah.
But that in itself is interesting too. You know,
Just different times.
just a lot darker, man. I guess they called them the Dark Ages for a reason. You know,
Well, I thought that was
you figure.
the Dark Ages are more like the 1300s to like 1500s or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they're all dark. I just consider them all dark. But
yeah.
the time frame, yeah,
No
it's like-
electricity.
yeah, no electricity, man. No,
Literally dark.
yeah, literally always dark.
But I mean, just imagine like being like in Rome, like back in the day, though. It's like seeing the
seeing the-
aqueducts.
Oh
and, like,
man, yeah, that must have been crazy.
the Colosseum, and it's like full glory.
Yeah.
And statues actually with like heads and arms on them instead
Yeah.
of being chopped off. And they were like painted too, weren't they?
Yeah,
Like the temples as well.
mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
that stuff like actually had paint on them, and like just seeing all that color
and a lot of that stuff, man, just held up so well. You know, like you can still go there today, and there's a lot of stuff that's still standing, still original.
Have you been to Rome yet?
I haven't.
Or
I
Italy?
really want to go.
Okay.
I want to go, but it's
Expensive.
very expensive. Yeah, but that would certainly probably satisfy all my I
Check all
have
the
to hit up
boxes.
every museum, and do all that stuff. But yeah, just the architecture and the stuff that they like brought to the world really was pretty impressive. But seeing that stuff back in the heyday must have been crazy.
Wow.
Because of
That and like ancient Greece, like just seeing like
yeah,
all the huge temples with the gods in them.
hmm
And
must have been nuts.
that'd be wild.
Yeah, so I want to
And
just
seeing the ships like in the harbor too, like these giant like biremes and triremes. And
yeah. Well, that's what's crazy too. That opens up a whole nother can of worms. Talking about or just thinking about the just the architecture and the engineering behind it. I mean, you figure it's hard enough today. Construction and stuff, and how hard it is to build skyscrapers and build bridges and just everything. But think about back then, dude. Like they didn't have,
Dude,
like they didn't have obviously equipment. Like they had to do everything by hand. They had to. I mean,
Uh,
they built things to help. Like they were able to build like, they were able to figure out leverages and how to like
simple machines.
yeah, how to be able to lift those like big building castles. How to get those giant stones to the top, and they used different machines to be able to do it and stuff.
Yeah,
but it
like the
wasn't gas
Egyptians.
powered. It wasn't like just looking back on that is just it's nuts how they even
And that was like in a what do you call it? Like more of like a sterile environment of like the city and everything, where like they can control everything.
Yeah.
And then versus like Alexander, there's it's like it's in the Mediterranean. It's like this. It was an island.
mm-hmm.
I'm sure you know the story of like they couldn't get to it. Like the walls were too high, so they just stayed there for like a year plus and just kept like bringing in earth
yeah
and like just built
yeah
a land bridge out to this island, and then they
Mhm.
were able to like siege them properly. And they're
Yeah.
like, what the?
Romans did that too, and they built that bridge to get into like the Rhine and stuff because it just took too long trying to build a port and figure out how to do ships and stuff. So they built that bridge that led right through, so they could just march right across and stuff. And
Yeah, I read something like
I can't remember the name
the
of that.
Roman like level of like engineering was like just
Oh yeah,
for
dude.
just building fortifications like
hmm
almost overnight
Yeah,
to where like you give them a night, like they can like come up with like a good perimeter. You give them like a week and they got themselves a fortress.
oh yeah. Like I don't know how much you know about like the Teutoburg and stuff. That the Battle of Teutoburg Forest.
That's where the Romans got like ambushed by like not the
Arminius.
Yeah,
he was-
Arminius.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
he was the German, but he was a Roman auxiliary for several years, and I think he was
yeah,
born in Germany, but he was raised in Rome.
Netflix has a show, Barbarians.
Yes, barbarians, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Which is really cool. But
yeah they got slaughtered.
yeah, they did, and that's a dark moment in my love for Roman history. That's took a big fat L that day, but
It's very rare for them though.
that was super rare, and that's for 3 legions to be just wiped out like that. But
Teutoburg, what was the other one?
Carthage. There was
Carthage.
the big one in Carthage. They got annihilated, but from Hannibal.
And then I was gonna say the slave uprising with like Spartacus.
Yeah,
Gannicus,
that was a big deal too.
Crixus,
Yeah, of course they won that one, but Teutoburg
well, in the end.
Yeah,
but yeah,
but
I mean,
Teutoburg, man, that was But that show was amazing. But I brought that up because back to the construction was because after Teutoburg, like after getting annihilated, basically, like the survivors tried to run away, and they actually like made like a I don't know how I couldn't find any research as to the complexity of it and like as to what materials they used because it couldn't have been anything because they just got ambushed. But they essentially retreated and were able to create a fortification or a place to at least a camp, but a fortified camp to be able to kind of like protect themselves because the Germans chased them, because they didn't kill all of them, so they chased them. But just the ability to like after being slaughtered and you're tired and stuff because you've been running and all that. After all that, they can go back and they can still manage to erect a fortification and stuff, and just in those conditions, and it's just speaks to their abilities.
Yeah.
It's like, and obviously saw what they could do in peacetime and stuff when they had ample time, they could build everything that they built. But just in that wartime, it's pretty impressive, to be able to build like I don't want to say a castle because I would just call it a fortification, but it's still impressive. Like being able, to build that in that kind of environment, So it's pretty sweet, dude. Like that stuff is crazy. Those aqueducts and just the amount, the size of it, and it's just, and the fact that it's still today standing and it's solid. Like it's not, like.
I mean, what was it? It was I can't remember. It was probably like a Netflix documentary or something like that. How it's made or something like that. And like we're still copying Roman concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've broken it down and they've like figured it out, like the ratios, and we're still copying that.
Oh yeah, because I mean you don't, no reason to fix what's not broken,
Yeah.
Like just the fact that they were able to figure it out that long ago is just insane. I mean, it's just I can't wrap my head around it.
I mean, just imagine what's lost in the Library of Alexandria.
Oh God, it's gotta be that thing and too, man. I'd like to. If you could fast travel, dude, I'd go back there, check it all out.
Like what you could learn.
Just read, spend about 3 months just reading everything. And
I saw something the other day. It was like there's like an old monastery, like I think it was like Tibet or Nepal or something like that, and only 3% of it's been like deciphered.
Yeah,
and it's like it dates back like thousands of years.
Wasn't there like a fire or something though that destroyed like most of it?
The Tibet Nepal one,
or
the Alexandria
one.
Well, like nobody knows where it's at.
I thought there was somewhere that was like a fire or something happened and they lost like a lot of it.
I do believe like it was burned.
Yeah.
When like Alexandria got sacked, but like nobody knows its exact location, so it's like
if anything, like a movie with Nicolas Cage about it or something,
National Treasure.
Yeah.
Ancient National Treasure Part 3.
The treasures of Alexandria.
I have to steal it.
Yeah, I have to
save it.
To save it.
Awesome. Yeah. That
missed opportunity, if you ask me, man. That's gold.
I mean,
that's gold.
Those movies were cool.
They were cool. They were campy, but like they were super cool.
I'm not saying they're great.
Yeah.
They were cool.
Yeah.
They had a cool story to them. And it just like it did get.
And you watched them every year in school, so.
That was past my time.
Okay. We watched it every year, dude.
I watched The Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
That and Sound of Music.
Okay.
Those are the movies that I can remember.
They deem that as important, like.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, this is what you'll need as an adult.
That it's like nobody can complain about it. There's nothing wrong with it, so. But yeah, like the whole like the lost knowledge and everything. That's like. That's like one of those bad things about like human civilization and just like it's like we conquer an area and we just like burn it.
I know.
And like we could just get rid of the books, we get rid of the scrolls, and it's like, man, like what has been like truly lost from us just being like greedy, stupid, or just like trying to prevent what's in the Vatican?
Oh God, can of worms right there, dog. The Vatican,
the library down there.
I know.
Like holy crap! All the religious texts, like Bible Part 2 and 3 and 4, like all the extra.
Well, and they have a lot of stuff too that they swear is like like Jesus's personal possessions and stuff. They have a lot of stuff like that too.
Oh, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, apparently.
But I mean that makes sense.
But
yeah, just like all the different scrolls that could be down there, and just like hearing different things. That it's like no, the public doesn't need to know about that.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
They don't let anybody in there, and I mean, it makes sense, but it's also it's very cultish, you know?
Yeah.
When you think, I don't want to upset any religious people when I say cultish, but it kind of cultish, you know?
Kind of cultish.
Kind of cultish, a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
But secret squirrel stuff.
Secret, yeah. Secret squirrel.
Keep it secret. Keep it safe.
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting, though. But that place has got to be loaded, you figure. I mean,
yeah.
it's just got to be. Because I don't really know the history behind that, too, but as far as like the age of when it became a thing, you know?
Yeah.
But.
Well, speaking of Christianity,
got to be back.
What?
It's got to be back there. Like,
oh, yeah. What would you say was like the downfall of Rome? Because like in my opinion, I do believe like I think Christianity played a huge role in it.
Yeah, it did. Well, they got it in their own way, unfortunately.
That too, yeah.
And that was the biggest thing for me. That's the biggest part is just because and obviously all the stages they went through, like, you know, they started out as like a king state. You know, they had kings, and they rotated through different kings, but it was non-hereditary. Like a lot of places, you know, it's like you're the king and then your son, the heir, becomes the king, but theirs was non-genetic in the beginning. So it just kind of went all over the place, and then they became a republic, and then, you know, tried to do a democracy thing, and then they went to the totalitarian thing with Caesar, and so they had all these different things, and that slowly but surely, like, they were always headed that direction, you know? Because they made
it's like once you gain extreme power, then it's just like stuff starts becoming corrupt and
they made so many changes throughout their history that, like, you know, they couldn't just get behind it, you know, and be like, this is the way things are. We can, like, you know, make this whatever stage they were in. They couldn't just focus on it and make it good, because they would switch to something else. You know what I mean? And then it was just constant, like, having to change, and then of course, you know, all the politics and the treachery, and, you know, it wasn't about Rome. Like, it was very selfish, and people just wanted power for themselves, you know.
Yep.
So that played into it, and then also like overextension is a big one. You know, they conquered. I mean, they went to all of pretty much all of Europe, a lot of Asia, northern part of Africa, and the Mediterranean. So like they branched out so big to where they just couldn't successfully, you know, because then you have to, you know, put outposts and legislation and
our level of communication today,
right?
Which would make it
easier.
easier.
And you can't just call over, you know, like you had to do everything by horse, and
2 weeks later,
you know,
horse comes in.
You're
in
Italy and you're trying to freaking, you know, send a message to Africa or something. You know, it's not very easy. So overextension played a big part, and then just constant war too. You know, it was just nonstop. And it was just, and I think at the very end, it was just they lost pieces of territory one at a time. You know, so it was like they would have the fighting in Gaul, which is France. But, you know, the Romans would lose, and they'd lose a city here because they'd win, and then lose a city here in the Mediterranean, and they just became smaller and smaller until, you know.
Who was the Vandals? They were the finishing blow, right? Or like when the barbarians attacked?
Like Boudica and all those kind of people, like the Gauls.
I thought it was Boudica.
Boudica.
Oh, okay. Well,
I just said Boudica, but either one.
She's a badass.
Yeah, she was legit. To the chagrin of the Romans, but she was legit in her own right. But yeah, I mean, just culmination of all that stuff, man. You know, but it was their own doing, because they were. how long did they last? Probably 1,000 years, I would say, because it was probably, they say 700, between 600 and 700 BC was when it kind of first started, and it lasted all the way up until like 700 AD. So it was probably about 1,000 years or just under that. But
who was the last Caesar or emperor or whatever? We need a Jamie.
We need a Jamie. Yeah, Jamie, look that up.
Look that up
on
please.
Google. Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, there's the
yeah. There's that. That's what you need. Yeah.
Because I can't.
Yeah, I need some help here from Google, but I can't remember the name, honestly, off the top of my head. And it's a shame, because I literally just read this like 3 days ago.
Boning up.
Yeah.
And then forgot.
Yeah, then I forgot. Yeah, what I was talking about. Yeah, it was just the self-inflicted, you know. But they were just so powerful for so many years.
Just got too big and then just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, they literally had the largest army. They had the best infrastructure. They had the best.
I don't think they had the largest army.
I
thought the Huns had the largest army.
I don't know.
I believe
they had the largest. Well, I don't say largest standing army, but I don't know the Huns. How much? They probably had a lot, but
the Huns, I believe, had the largest empire.
Yeah,
overall
landmass.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I could at least say the best trained and organized. I guess you could say. But I think that's fair to say. So theoretically, I mean, they could have lasted a lot longer, but yeah, they just greed and overextension, caused them to go down. But after 1,000 years, I mean, you figure something's got to change eventually, right? I mean,
all empires must fall.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
So
from Romulus and Remus to
whoever
that last
Romulus
emperor.
and Remus, yep. So that's even a whole other thing, talking about the treachery and stuff. I mean, right out the gate, the two people that founded Rome, man, the guy who founded Romulus, who was named after, killed his brother. So you could basically say it started with, treachery right off the get. So it's kind of spelled the foreshadowing, if you would.
Rome sounds better than Reem.
It does. Yeah.
I mean,
Reem and Empire. Not as.
It doesn't sound as good.
Sorry, bro. I got to kill you. It doesn't work.
My name's better.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You just have to die. I'm sorry, but what else is there to do?
Yeah.
But, yeah, man. So kind of a shame, but Christianity. Yeah, I think that played a big part in it, too. Because I think that's the person we can't figure out whose name it was, to the end of Rome, he was the one Jamie? He was the one that really pushed Christianity.
I know, like
at the very end.
Not Constantine.
It was that guy. That was him. It was Constantine. He was the last one.
Oh,
yes,
I didn't know
because
that.
he was. Yes, because he was. Thanks for bringing that up. Because he was. He's the one that ushered in the basically made Rome Christianity.
Yeah, I mean,
and
I
he
remember
went
that.
and the founding of Constantinople and all that kind of stuff. The Byzantine Empire
went from Rome.
That was all because of
Constantinople.
Yes.
Yep.
So that was all because of the Christianity stuff, and that's yeah.
The empire capital moved, and then I didn't realize he was the last one.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, that was the segue. I couldn't think of the name, but that's exactly right. Yep.
And he got conquered by what's his name? There's a Netflix thing on him too.
It was
the conquering of Constantinople.
The Middle East, right? Was the
he
was fighting with?
Ottomans.
I can't remember. Ottomans.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Ottoman Empire. I think is a show on Netflix, right? Or is it just called Ottomans? I don't remember. Might be Ottoman Empire.
Fair.
Which I think is basically just like a Marco Polo kind of thing. I don't know if you saw that one.
That was a really cool show.
That was awesome. I think it's similar to that. That
was only 2 seasons long.
I know.
I actually liked it because it kind of.
I wasn't super interested in the thought of it, like getting started. I was like, but then I watched it and it was
the name got me alone. I was just like, oh, Marco Polo.
Yeah.
And then it was more of just like him traveling out that way and then living with
the Huns.
And like that concept
that cool.
alone. Well, I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, you figure you don't have a lot of Hun history or stuff, like movies, shows.
There was one that I watched, and like it's not an American film at all. It was, I want to say it was like a Russian. I think it was like a Russian director, but like the battle scenes on it alone were super cool because he had these like, I don't know what the term for them is. It's like the vanguard, like the ones that like are just gonna die.
Yeah,
like you're totally cool with like if they do survive, great.
Yeah.
But if they die,
they're the expendable ones.
It's okay. But they had how like the Huns had their it was almost like a sickle scythe kind of. They had those long curved blades. Can't remember the name of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the scene where like they're coming in, and they have two of them, and they grab the handle, so the blades are down, and they just like tuck in to the horse, like down by the neck, and so like they're
so it's like a like what's those things, the catapults with the spikes hanging out?
Just
it's like
the chariots, like
chariots.
So like they're just going in, and it's like this giant like Mighty Ducks flying V kind of wedge formation, and each one of them has like their blades like sticking out, and they just like decimate this like front line of like whoever they were fighting, and I was like,
wow,
that was cool.
That's crazy. Is that like, do you know if that's historical or is that like?
I have no idea.
Because that'd be crazy. That sounds nuts.
But like,
it sounds something that they would fabricate. Like, but I don't know. If that actually happened, that sounds nuts.
I know, like they were known for their horsemanship, their archery.
Combination of the two.
Yep.
That was impressive. That was cool.
Attila alone was like, I mean, Roman is like, yeah, that's amazing, and it's just like, but it's like, I think the Huns are more celebrated maybe in the East, like with China and Mongolia and everything
Big
like
time.
that.
They were more feared. I'll tell you that. They were
the rape and
way more
pillage side
feared.
of that. Holy crap!
Dude.
Being on the Hun, would you rather get conquered by the Romans or the Huns? Probably the Romans.
You probably had a
That'd be a little bit.
You had a
easier.
pretty high chance of being crucified if you're by the Romans, but you know,
if you just like subject yourself, you could just become a slave. Like,
yeah. And of course, you would have like they take everything from you, you know, so you don't have anything, but you'd be alive. And probably not drawn and quartered by horses and all that other stuff they did. They just didn't care. Like that's crazy.
The Huns, though, man,
it was brutal.
Fierce.
It was brutal. Yes.
I'll try and find that movie title for you. I can't.
Yeah, I want to check that out. That's for the scene alone. I want to see that.
I don't
that
know
just
how
sounds
I found
crazy.
it. Like it was like a clip or something, and this was like years ago too. And I was like, I have got to watch that movie,
dude.
It was really cool.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah,
please do send me a text of you or something if you find that.
Yeah, like movie wise and everything. It's like I love watching like those those ancient battles.
Yeah, they were just done so well, you know, and also because the older movies didn't rely on CGI, you know, which helps a lot, but it also just
in some
there's something
regards,
about just a lot of extras, you know. There's something about that you just can't replace.
I know it's fantasy, but like Lord of the Rings, like.
Dude,
the charge of the Rohirrim
gets me every time, dude.
The speech, and then they're just like going in. It's so cool,
dude.
But then, like ancient wise, like I know it wasn't like necessarily a great movie, but Alexander, the Battle of Gaugamela, that was a really cool fight to watch. Yeah. I know it wasn't like another. I think it was cool. King Arthur, just like the. The story behind the legend kind of thing, how they were like Roman knights or the Sarmatian knights, and then they were conscripted, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
like getting to watch how they battled, and then obviously just Troy.
That's just classic, dude.
I love the landing on the beach of Troy.
That one's awesome, and I just love that scene when he was doing the duel against that guy, the big huge dude.
Oh no,
the huge guy,
Ajax.
And he just like. Yeah, the guys like throwing javelins, just dodge and weave, and just jump attacks, you know.
Oh,
on that one, remember that on Troy?
Oh, so you're talking about Achilles versus Hector?
Yeah, no. I'm talking about it's the battle. It's early on in the beginning, and the armies like are facing each other, and they do a duel. Pick your best warriors.
Oh,
and it's that dude who's like super tall.
Boagrius versus Achilles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way he's just like the way it pans on him, and he's just like hauling ass, you know.
Dodges it
and dodges.
Hits the first one.
He
chucks the shield. And
just dodges it, and then just freaking just jump stabs him, dude. I was like, holy.
I remember watching the behind the scenes on that, and like they were talking about like in the Iliad, they said like it was described as like Achilles fights like a god.
Yeah.
And they were like trying to like, how do we show that? Like, how does a god fight?
Right.
So like they had to come up with this like style, and like you'll see it like he does that move multiple times. Like he does it with Hector, he does it against other soldiers, but that like going up the stairs to the temple of Apollo, like that same move.
Yep.
That like that heavy just like stab was just super cool.
Yeah, just showing off like they have like athleticism and kind of like other. They try to make it as like otherworldly, you know, like to try to be like he's not human, like how good he was at combat, you know. And that fight with Hector, man, was awesome. That's got to be, I mean, out of all the war movies, like as far as dueling goes, that's got to be top 3, if not number 1 for me. It's just so good, and the story and all that stuff is so well thought out.
The music that goes along with it is just like the
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, it was a battle of the Titans, man. But that was kind of a low blow though when he. Because I mean, Hector had like a lot of you could tell he was very like honorable, you know, and
but his honors what got him,
and his honors what got him, and then of course you know,
and then
Achilles just
got him.
having no chill whatsoever, strung him up and freaking drug him on the chariot, you know, remember that?
Have no eyes, no ears, or a tongue.
Yeah, drug his freaking body, and everyone's just watching. I was like, that's crazy.
I mean, just think about like even the king, like him being the dad. Like, why not just be like, "Where's your best archer?" Like, snipe him.
But see,
Like,
in that kind of going back to the original topic of like the lessons and the stuff, like as good as he was at combat and like undefeated and all that kind of stuff, like nobody even injured him. I don't think, hardly, very rarely
until the end.
And it was, of course, the most cowardly, weak person in the entire movie who ended up. Now,
That's the only thing I don't like about the movie, because like,
and that's how that did it. But of course, it was different than real facts. But the fact that he did it, I think it was to symbolize also something too. The fact that like you don't have to be the best kind of thing. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, you got.
I was like, how did he lose to that? Like, as good as Achilles was, that pissed me off a little bit. I was like, man.
I mean, that's the story. It's like he knew going to Troy, like his name would live on.
Yeah, I mean, he achieved.
But he would die.
Yeah,
His ego would get him.
And the Trojan horse scene, man, that was awesome too. That's classic. But I think Monty Python might have it beat though. I think that one has it.
I mean, you can't top Monty Python.
No, dude.
It's like on a different level right there.
It is, dude. I can't get over that movie, dude. I showed my wife that, and she was like, "This is the stupidest movie," but she loved it. I mean, how can you not?
I need to show it to my wife.
She hasn't seen it?
She hasn't seen so many movies. Like, I'll bring up stuff, and she's just like, "I haven't seen that." I'm like, "What?"
See, well, that's how Nat was. Apparently, she lived under a rock in Douglasville, and
they must have lived under the same rock.
Yeah, but we've lived. We've been together for 5 years, and dude, I'm having a hard time now finding movies she hasn't seen because I've shown her that many. But it was like all the classics, like Spaceballs and.
But I've got her to watch Spaceballs,
all that kind of stuff.
I still got to get her to watch like A Princess Bride.
Okay, yeah.
Just because it's just like such a quotable movie.
It is.
And then, God, what? Yeah, she hasn't seen a lot. And like, I'm still trying on Lord of the Rings for her.
Okay, yeah, that's a very niche one because it is.
I know it's fantasy, but it's like
if you're not interested in it, I can understand the slow scenes and stuff. Like I think most people can get behind the battle and action scenes, but trying to get through some of those slower dialogue, and it has plenty of it.
Yeah, especially if you're watching like the extended edition.
Yeah,
like
unless you're into it, man.
Most of that stuff, like that fantasy kind of that world, I don't get into. Like, it's just kind of like I've tried some of those other shows, and I'm like, or movies. I'm like,
yeah,
it's all right. But I don't know. It's like Lord of the Rings. Like, I think they just did like
it's so well done. It's just it's hard to. I mean,
I just want somebody to go back, redo the CGI on Gollum, call it a day.
It actually wasn't too bad. What do you not like about the
Return of the Kings? He was better, but it's like the
original. Well, yeah, I mean,
but Fellowship and
we figured too. That was like in the early days of CGI, though. You know what I mean? Like
I get it.
They did pretty good considering.
But if they were just to go back and make them all consistent,
like a remaster,
that's it. That's it. Yeah. That's all I want. That's all I want.
Okay, all right.
Just update the CGI for that one character.
Just what you need to do is just break her into the extended edition marathon.
I've tried.
How many times? Not enough.
Obviously not enough.
You have to just will yourself through it, bro. Like,
I'm just gonna like, she'll go go to the bathroom, and I'll just like put it on. I'm like, I'm watching this.
Yeah, I've tried to show my wife one time, and dude, first 15 minutes, she was like, "Nah, done." It's like. Didn't even make it like into anything, but she doesn't. She loves Star Wars and Harry Potter and that kind of stuff, but Lord of the Rings, man, she could not get into it.
It's like she got into. Yeah, I guess the only other like fantasy thing that I'd say I got into was like Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
but a lot of that I felt like was like rooted in somewhat like realism,
right? And
then it just happened to have some dragons, or it happened to have something else. I know it was like a core part of the story, but it's just, I don't know. It's like
when you start talking about different stuff with like different like species of like orcs and all that stuff.
That's where it gets hard.
It can draw a line with a lot of people. Yeah, it's a very niche market.
There's like goblins, there's orcs,
but the people who like it are like super into it. It's usually not like Lord of the Rings. Oh yeah, it was okay. It's like you're either like, dude, I freaking love it, I marathon it, watch all the time, or you hate it and think it's stupid. It's not really a middle.
Yeah,
it's like so.
I mean, for as much as like I like Star Wars, it's like I actually have a hard time rewatching them.
Really?
I mean, there's a couple of them, but like, God, I could just put on like Lord of the Rings anytime, and I'm just like
captivated. Yeah.
It's just they're so well done.
They are.
I know we've gotten like completely off topic from like history and everything.
No,
like, whatever. It's like who cares?
But, hey, it's part of the.
Yeah.
I don't say part of the same vein, but
yeah.
they're following along. They got it. If they've made it this far, they're into it.
You're doing good.
Yeah, they're into it. If we haven't bored half,
actually, we're kind of like right around our time limit, and trying to stay at.
Man,
so,
time flies, man.
Yeah,
talk about history,
dude. We just keep going.
I mean, honestly, good. Honestly, but
we'll do it afterwards.
Yeah, it's niche because you're like the one only. Well, I don't say the one person, but probably like less than 5 people I know that are super interested in history and stuff. So it's hard to have that conversation. Otherwise, I watch them fall asleep as I'm talking to them. Like I can watch their eyes. You know.
It's like there's so many people, like especially like just within like the fire department, and they're like football and baseball, and it's like they'll spit out names and facts. And like one of the guys on your crew, like Andy Fox, like love him to death, but he'd be like speaking football,
Braves,
and I'm
bro.
like
Braves and dogs, dude. He's all about it.
Like when
I like sports too, but yeah, I'm not as versed.
I can't get into like watching team sports for some reason. Like. It bores me to death. Like you want to get into like mountaineering and
there you go.
Watching like Alex Honnold like climb like El Capitan, like that has me captivated. Like
I was gonna say at 23, like all the biking and car videos,
the
outdoor
kind of stuff,
adventure
sports. Oh, man, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Teddy Roosevelt. We said like I'm probably misquoting this, and I probably got the wrong person too, but. Paraphrasing, I believe it was like the only 2 real sports a man should do are mountaineering and bullfighting. And I was like, okay. I was like, God.
That's just testosterone in a sentence right there.
Yeah.
How do you beat that?
I was like, how do you like not compete on that level? It's like,
right.
All right. One, you're just fighting a bull, and the other one, like you're subjecting yourselves to the worst weather and elements on the planet.
Yeah.
And the technical skill level.
It's true.
Like, okay.
Yeah. I can get by watching some sports though, but not so much, like, really football and hockey are the ones I can actually attentively watch.
On TV, I can't
I can watch a couple.
I can go to the stadium, I can go to the game, and I'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
But watching on TV...
Man, yeah, Fox...
It might as well be just, like, the worst documentary in the world.
I say, Fox is going to be upset that I say that, but I can only make it about 2 innings, maybe. And after that, I'm just like...
I get bored.
I'm going to offend all the NASCAR people, too. It's just like... I'm going to say it. Another left turn.
Left turn.
They're taking another left turn. But that's how it is for me, man. I'm like, I can't. Yeah. Of course, that's another thing. Like, they say that if you go and see it in person, it's way different than TV. Sure. And I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's probably fun. And, watching them. I've seen videos of how fast they're. TV don't do that justice. I'll give them that. It's literally like you blink and they're gone. It's pretty. That's impressive. But
yeah, racing wise, like, dude, I would love to go see a rally race.
Yeah.
Like, watch one of those like. Whatever cars, like little tiny.
What do they have over in Woodstock? They have that track over there.
Dixie Speedway.
Dixie Speedway. Is that?
Well, I mean,
what do they have? What do they have?
Just a loop.
Yeah, but is that just? I've never been to that, but
I've actually never been either.
I heard it. I used to live in apartments over there, and I would hear them. Whenever they do it, they just all night. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, our Woodstock house Friday and Saturday. It's like
you just knew it, and I'm like, okay, it's time.
Yep. Imagine living closer to that though.
That's terrible. Yeah.
Yep.
But
the last thing I try and do with every episode is just like advice. And so it's like whatever advice like you have for the world, just like a little anecdote.
Advice?
Yeah, like.
What
would you tell the world?
I'm gonna stick with I'll stick with a history quote just because we've been talking about it this whole episode. So what's that? It's a famous line. I don't want to quote it per se, but I know there's a standalone quote with it, but it's something along the lines of history, or like history is doomed to repeat itself, and if you don't pay attention to it, you'll be following the same paths, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good piece of advice. I think it's applicable to a lot of things, right? Like I don't want to get into politics and stuff, but it's part of that, and so I think it's wise to at least
learn from your mistakes.
To learn and remember, and that's what I would say.
Okay.
But I know there's a quote, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, follow this quote, because I just probably butchered it. But it's just,
I butchered the.
You get the gist, right? History is important and cool.
Yeah.
Research it, and then
don't forget it.
If they're not bored, they can talk to me about it.
Absolutely.
So.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please follow us on your favorite podcast app. Hit that bell for notifications on new episodes. And please share with a friend. Thank you for all the support so far. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.